What's up everyone? Back with another video. So I've been wiring for probably 4 days now, pretty steadily on this. I mean, it's been a week, but every day that I've hit it, I've been in here for a long time, and wiring definitely takes quite a while. So I was gonna film some of it, but it's kind of boring, so I kind of just figured I would film more of like some of the tools that I'm using and kind of some of the shit that I think works pretty good. I'm by all means no professional wirer. This is kind of the first time that I've ever tried to wire anything like this, I guess you could say. Which, by that I mean making everything like a single harness pretty much. So like I'm doing J2A, J2AB, J3, and J4 on the Holley Dominator setup. So this right here would be the J2B harness. It's pretty much done. I'm just gonna fill in all the outputs basically. So what I'm doing with this particular one is, this is all these wires here. This is an injector harness. So if I ever run secondary injectors, it's all done. It's all into this is the injector harness and this is the J2B plug. So I just gotta add all the spare pins for the outputs on J2AB, or J2B it is. And then just kind of finish up the injector plug there, and then this one will be all good. So basically everything is done off of the Holley itself. It's not, into terminal strips or anything like that, unless, like this wire is your injector trigger, so this one's got to go to a relay basically. And then here is the other one, which I just got to put loom on this one, which all I had to do to this harness is just add the extra inputs and outputs. But this side of it is the transmission, and that is all pretty much wrapped up. So a lot of this stuff is going pretty well. I've definitely been learning a lot. Like I said, I've never just made like a single harness before. I've always used, terminal strips or whatever. And they're nice, but it just gets kind of confusing sometimes. And that's kind of where I was at when I took it apart and looked behind. I'm like, I just don't even know where to begin to start adding this much stuff. So I figured if I just redid it all, it would make perfect sense. So now I'll flip the camera around and I'll kind of show you what the interior is looking like. So this is what I got in the interior so far. So keep in mind, like all this stuff, this all gets plugged into the dash. And that's including these wires here. These are all ignition wires. So most of the stuff as far as the chassis goes, I didn't want to redo because that makes for a ton of work. I mean, all this stuff here is all chassis stuff, basically. So like line lock, radio, windows, starter, just a whole bunch of nonsense. I got to change that ground. I just did that temporarily so I could power the car up and check and make sure the trans brake worked. So like I said, I didn't want to go nuts with it and redo everything because obviously I could make it much, much nicer than it is. But as far as this stuff goes, you can take the entire Holley system out without really messing with any of the other things, and that's kind of how I wanted it to be, where the Holley was mostly separated. Obviously I'll still have a couple relays and stuff running on it, but other than that, it's basically all divided. So that'll work pretty nice. And like I said, as far as the chassis side goes, that is just a project for another time. But still got to clean it up. I mean, there's some zip ties that I got to cut and kind of hang everything up. I still got it mostly down so I can redo everything, but it is coming along nicely. And you can see back here, I have the EGT and the secondary injectors in there, which I don't think I'll have either of those going yet, just because I don't really know if I want to take the headers off and do all that stuff to them right now. Everything's kind of just ready to go. If I have the headers off, the next time I have them off, I will for sure put them on. But as far as right now goes, it's all right. I added some sensors to it, and I have all my inputs and outputs into these connectors. So I'll never have to take the dash off again to access or to add something to it. I'll have a connector hanging around somewhere that I can jump into. And everything is on DT connectors. I'll show you my little kit that I got. This is from Monkey Fab Garage. Comes with this crimper, which is super nice, and basically all this stuff. I mean, I've tapped into quite a bit of this. There's a ton of these 2-pin ones, and I've used a bunch. I'm working on a 12-pin now. So there's 2, 3, 4, 6 8 and 12 pin in this. Then I've been using these. These are just uninsulated butt connectors, and those work super awesome. And then here's my panel that all those wires go to basically. So there's a huge clump of them that go into the back of the radio, and then the rest goes into these. Obviously they're extremely long, but that makes it nice for if you happen to have this thing off and you're doing something. I have this whole deal off. And then I got a whole bunch of notes, which is super nice. I mean, this is like my J4 connector is what I'm working on right now. So that's all the stuff that works on there. And those are all the open pins, and that's one of the open connectors there. And I have each 5-volt sensor ground, and then B8, B19, B9, and B10. And then this one, which I haven't done yet, is a 12 pin, and that'll also label every single open pin that it's got. And so you can see I got all the stuff that I'm working on in here as far as the outputs go, and then everything for inputs. Some of them I did, I don't know if I'm gonna do it all, but like I have like open white wire, open yellow wire. I probably will just turn those off because they don't really need to be there, and I don't really wanna be sending 5 volts out there. But just for, I don't know why, I just did it on that one just because. So, yeah. But I'm gonna keep plugging away on this, and I think I'm gonna set a little camera up, and I'll kind of show you just what I like about using this style of connector. Just for anyone who's on the fence about spending any money on these, I mean, they're awesome, and they're so much nicer than weather packs. I absolutely love them. And weather packs aren't bad, but these are just way easier, and that's what's nice about them. So I'll kind of set a camera up and show a little bit of that, just how simple it is making the pins, and yeah. All right, so as you can see here, this will go to the drive shaft sensor, and the two, I don't have the second one, but I've just pre-pinned it for a second shock sensor back here. This one is one of my open ones, so this just has 5-volt sensor ground and then 3 just random inputs. I mean, they're not anything yet, but if I ever need them, they will be. The reason that I kind of separated them is because I don't have an 18-pin connector. So there's 6 wires here, and then I believe there's 11 here. And there's also another 5-volt and sensor ground on this end of it. So that makes it super simple to, you know, add on to it or branch off if you're gonna add stuff. And I wanted things back here, you know, in case I go to like an air launcher, or, I mean, you can put tire temp sensors or track temp sensors. And if I do any of that stuff, that'll all be done back here. And then also, so since my radiator and my water pump and fans are back here, I did make a second connector up in the front in case I ever move them. So if I ever take that out, I can just unhook the wires that go into this panel here, and that'll just go up front then instead. It'll go to a relay panel up there, or however I end up doing that, which I'm not necessarily sure at the moment because we're not there and I'm kind of out of relays on that board up there, but it really should work if I do end up doing it. So I'll just show you kind of how to crimp these things. Like I said, I'm not an expert at this, but it's so simple that anyone who's on the fence about it needs to see it. So basically what this is it's like a barrel style pin, and then inside of there's just 4 claws that just crimp it right on. And then with this little thing here, you can kind of see that, this guy, this is what sets your tightness. So I'm doing smaller 18 gauge wire, so I got it on as tight as it goes. And then it just basically ratchets. And so then as far as this end goes, this is the side you put the pin in. You can just lay the pin right in that little tiny hole, like so, and then grab one of your wires. You just shove that in there. So then you can just push on it. So the connector's not trying to fall out. It's not trying to do anything as far as like your pin goes or anything like that. It's just nice and stationary. And you can make a nice, simple crimp, just like so. So then we got it crimped. And it's on there good. So you basically just got a bunch of those to do, and it's just awesome. So if you're looking to do something like this, I would highly recommend these. They are so awesome. I just love them. And for what they, I mean, it was, I think the kit was like $260, 240. And I've done, I mean, like I said, I have a lot of sensors on this car. I mean, not a ton, but quite a few, and it's done me pretty well so far. I mean, I'm not out of them yet by any means. I've used a lot of 2-pins, shifter, the boost solenoids, just like if you need to go somewhere or spare stuff, or if you're just trying to put a connector somewhere where it's easy to get to if you got to take some stuff apart. Just very awesome. Like I said, I would talk some more about how, you know, I laid the harnesses out and everything, but I'm not really a pro at this, and I know there's a lot of other people out there that make YouTube videos on how to do it that are way better at it than I am. But I think you're kind of getting the idea. I mean, you can just fly through these. Like, it really does not take long to do any of this stuff when you have some sweet tools like this. I mean, and this all came as a kit. It came with these. This is the tool to like take them apart. It came with, I don't know, these other little plastic things, but I'm not exactly sure what those are for. And then like the little locks, like there's a lock that's in there. I don't know if you can see that, it's green. And then same with that one. And then on the other end of things, if you were to put a connector on the opposite end, all the wires go in the back, and then you just push the pins in until they lock, and then snap that cap in, and you're good. As far as taking them apart goes, like for example, I put all these style pins, these would be the female end. I put them in the side that the male is supposed to go into. And I was like, damn it, what the hell? But if you look in here real close, you probably can't see. Let's get this light. Maybe you can kind of see now. There's a bunch of little tabs in there. And basically all you do is you take your little tool here. It's just a screwdriver on one end and then a little hook on the other. And you can just go in here and you just pull that tab down. And you're just not going to be able to see. I don't have enough hands for all this stuff. But there you can kind of see. You just go in there and you can grab it and just lift the tab out and pull the wire. It's so awesome. I mean, it just works so good. It's unbelievable. So if you're definitely considering what connectors to use, I just really like them. They're just really nice and they're super easy to use. So that's my opinion on that. So there, it's all pinned together. There's my shock and drive shaft stuff, and then here are the 2 open ones. All a nice loom, and I just gotta put the lock in this one, so let's grab the lock. Looks like one of these. It's a little wedge, and basically it just goes into the end of that connection. So I'll set this down so you can kind of see. So it goes right in there. Let me get my light once again. So right in there. So then typically, this one might be big enough to where you don't have to, but I just grab it with the little pliers. And then you can just kind of lay it up in there until it kind of falls halfway in. And once it's in, you just push down and it just snaps in. If all your pins are right, you really should just push in pretty easily, just like so. So then they're all locked. And if you want to take that out, you can just grab that thing and pull it out. And then use your fancy little tool that they give you and just push on the little hooks and disconnect them. So that one is done. Just got to put a little loom on that guy, and this harness is all wrapped up. I mean, this one's done to completion. I just got to pin out the other ones and probably end up ordering a couple more 12 and 8-pin ones so I can, you know, have connectors on everything. But it is really quite that simple, so it'll be kind of fun. I'll show you another cool thing that I got if you're looking, and if you follow Monkey Fab on TikTok, they talk about a lot of this stuff. I haven't used one yet. I'm kind of still working on it, but it's called a bus bar, and basically, or maybe this isn't called a bus bar. I don't know what this is. It's just a distribution block, and this one just is grounds only, basically. So you just put a ground on the stud there, and then you can just make the pins with everything else. And these pins are more like a weather pack, so they're not really my favorite to make, mainly because I have a crappy crimp tool, but it is what it is. So I'm gonna make a whole bunch of them, and that'll feed all the grounds to everything, and it should be all good. So I'm interested to try it out and see how it works. I mean, as far as it's just a connector, so it really should work pretty nice. But I'm gonna jump on that and kind of start wiring out these fuel pumps here, and I'll probably actually save the fuel pumps for the very end so I can get the tank in. Or maybe I can plot it out to at least how long it's gotta be. Then all I gotta do is put a connector on the fuel hat side. So start putzing with some of that stuff and make that drive shaft and shock sensor wire harness, and then that'll just be a short little skinny harness with really only 3 connectors on it, so it'll be pretty damn easy. Yeah, but so far so good. We're rolling right along. I'm ready to power it up and kind of make sure everything works. I've powered up some of the harnesses just to give them a check over and make sure everything was good, like my trans brake works, my bump works, so that was kind of critical stuff, and you know, that's got to go into the chassis harness. I mean, a little bit, like I got to get 12 volt power to my buttons, and that's on the chassis side, so it does that. And then, you know, you got the solid state relays and all that good stuff, so it's all kind of tied into that. So I wanted to make sure that those worked really before I carried on with anything else, or kind of just forgot about that aspect. I mean, like a couple years ago when I first got this thing running, I battled them trans brake issues. That was brutal, no fun. So all that works exactly how it should. You hit the trans brake button and the Holley, the trans brake button lights up green, so that works. And then you hit the bump, that lights up green. My dump valve is commanded to open when the trans brake is on, that does that. So everything is all good on that aspect. Just got to try the flex fuel, but that should work. None of that really changed because I had the resistor done into it, all in a little harness that I made before, so all I really had to do was just run wires to it, so that should be all good. And yeah, but we're cruising right along, so I mean, not too bad. Hopefully should fire it up here a few days maybe. Still got to finish the trunk floor and do some of that nonsense, but it's coming. All right, so it has been maybe 2 days since I last filmed that clip, and I was pretty much on the home stretch of being done with all this wiring here. So today I just kind of been finishing things up. I got the fuel hat all mounted. I should really grab a light so you can see. Shut the door quick. So I got the fuel hat all mounted in there. You can see that. Got the wires running. Line. There you go. Now you can see. So the pump does work. I just pressurized the system, checked everything, and it doesn't appear that anything is leaking, so we're looking pretty good there. I got all the wiring finished up back here. Kind of just got to tie it up and loom it and everything. I just wanted to make sure that everything was going to function the way that it was supposed to, which it does. So we're good there, and I still got a little wiring left to do, just kind of tidying it up and doing random nonsense, but I just want to start it and make sure that everything runs and that it's all good. It's not super pissed off before I, you know, basically seal it up and is what it is after that. So we're gonna go ahead and fire it up here. I got basically everything on, and we'll see what happens. Ready? Yeah. Well, as you've seen there, it runs. So that's super awesome. Everything works, the fan, the trans brakes, the transmission fan. I got line pressure, pan temperature, the dump valve. Still gotta check some other things. I don't have a lot of it plugged in yet. I just kind of laid the harnesses in there. So I got some tidying up left to do, but that's awesome. And my fuel hat worked. So that is super cool. It seems to be all good. It didn't leak anything around here. It was making good pressure. I mean, it really should work. There's not really a whole lot to something like that. So if you guys are interested in them, I will probably start selling them. Kind of want to wait and see what Steven gets with his with the 4-pump one, the real one. I mean, basically the idea and the design is the same, but I just want to see his work too, since that's kind of the configuration that I went with now. But yeah, it's super awesome to see all that work. I probably got 80 to 90 hours in wiring this thing since that last video when I told you I took everything apart. So definitely a shit ton of time, and even money, honestly. I mean, I had most of the wire, but you still got to buy the connectors and all the bullshit, and then you need something weird or whatever, and you know, just a lot of stuff. But I'm very happy with it. Everything seems to work. The wiring is much easier to figure out now. The Holley controls literally everything. I mean, there's like nothing that you have to do as a driver in this car. The only thing you got to do is there's one button you have to hit to turn the trans brake on. And the whole purpose behind that is I just don't want to accidentally hit the trans brake while I'm driving down the road or something, since I do drive it a reasonable amount of time. And basically that button is foolproof, at least for the way that I do my stuff. So you have to turn the trans brake on, even if you don't use the trans brake to do the burnout. I always roll past the line. That's just how I do it. And so to back up in this car, you have to use the trans brake. So if the switch ain't on, the car's not gonna back up. And that's the only thing you have to do in this thing, is turn that button on and the thing is ready to roll. I'll be interested to see how the air to water or the air to air intercooler works. That'll be kind of cool. I still gotta make a cap. I was gonna cut this thing off. This is where the blow off valve used to be. Well, this pipe used to be flipped around and a whole bunch of stuff was kind of different, but I didn't have enough 4-inch, but this one worked. So I'm just gonna machine a little cap that's basically identical to the blow-off valve, and I'll use the blow-off valve cap since I've had a spare blow-off valve laying around here for a while. But put that on and she's about good to go. Finish up the wastegate plumbing. I did order new wastegates since I was having boost control issues. So get that stuff on, tidy it up, check a few things over, and we'll be ready to race. So pretty stoked about that. But that is going to end this video off. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.